My name is Sarah Jade Woodhouse, and I am the director. How often did I want to give up on it? I don't know that I ever really wanted to give up on it. There were lots of times when I got frustrated and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. But I was never wanting to give up on it. Like, I think I was just worried it wasn't gonna come to fruition, regardless, right? Like I could hammer and hammer and hammer and hammer away at it, and I wouldn't get enough of it done. So it wasn't like I wanted to give up. I was just worried I wouldn't be able to accomplish it.
Did the time frame ever feel like really constricting?
Yes. 6 weeks is 6 weeks. So I remember going into it thinking, oh, I have 6 weeks, and I have 2 hours a day with every day with the kids.
All right, and how are you feeling about the time span that's given to you?
It's ambitious.
I can do this. 6 weeks, easy. No.
The time span is it's a little rough. I mean, it's a lot of stuff to do in a 6 weeks period.
2 hours a day, 6 weeks, not enough time. Like if I look at Pioneer Memorial Theater, they're a professional theater company. Professional. They do Broadway class equity house productions. And they have 3 weeks of rehearsal. But their 3 weeks of rehearsal is 10-hour days every day. That's 180 hours that they have just in the rehearsal time. That's way more than we had. So if they need that much, then we obviously at least need that much because we're not professionals. Well, first, whenever you tackle a Shakespeare, I think your first doubt is the language.
Titus, my empress,
Because you're like, how do I make this work? How do I make my audience understand it? How do I make my actors understand the importance of the words and understanding the words and understanding what they're saying so that the audience understands what they're saying? So yeah, I mean, my first real worry was the language, and then after that, my next worry was money, because I'm like, anytime I do a show, I'm kind of this kind of bar kind of person. I set the bar really high, and then I hope to reach it. And I know when I was at Highland, a lot of times my fellow faculty would say, maybe you need to lower your expectations. But that kind of makes me a little angry, because I'm like, why should I lower my expectations? Why shouldn't we be able to reach them? Kind of a thing. So money and language, those were probably my only frustrations. I think anytime you get to a point in a production where you feel the pressures of, oh my gosh, the audience is going to be there, and oh my gosh, what if we sell out, and oh my gosh, we've done all this publicity, and blah 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 blah, and what if it doesn't come together and it's going to suck and people will go away and we won't ever have an audience again. All of those frustrations weigh on you, right? So during the last week, I was tense. And I think everybody was tense, right? Because everybody's trying to do... I have those fears, but in addition, every department head has those fears, right? So the costume people were worried that they weren't be able to get everything done on time. The prop people were worried that they wouldn't be able to get everything done on time. The set was... we were worried we weren't going to be able to get everything cut and painted and glued down. So, yeah, there's all that frustration, but I seem to get more done when I give myself more things to do. Like if I'm really got 100 different irons in the fire, I actually work harder to get all of the fires right.
All right, how many hours do you think you spent on this show combined?
Too many to count. No, seriously. Let's see. A lot. So, in addition to the 2 hours every day in class, so what is that? 2 hours, 5 days, that's, 60 hours. 60 hours just on the in-class stuff. Outside of class, I probably put in a good 4 to 5 extra hours every day, and that's Monday through Sunday. Oh, let's say over 300 hours into the show. I'm sure of it. I got to be honest. This from day one all the way through this process, I felt like it was way more professional than any production I've had the privilege of putting together myself at any school. When I was at Slick, this feels way more slick than at Slick, right? When I was at Highland, way more professional. But I'm dealing with an older group of students, right? And at a school that specializes in the field. So I was pleasantly surprised at our very first production meeting how smooth it went and how inspired everybody was and how motivated everyone was. And I think what went wrong somewhere along the way, we lost that inspiration. We lost that motivation. And we started thinking more about ourselves and less about the production as a whole. So it was like, how come my dream's not being realized? Or how come my dream's not being realized? And the most important thing is that the show's dream gets realized. Because my one, as a director, my one allegiance is to the show.
These tribunes in the dust, I write.
I don't have an allegiance to set design. I don't have an allegiance to props, actors, stage managers, any of the people that help build the show. I don't really, my allegiance isn't to them. My allegiance is to the show. And then I hope that their allegiance is also to the show, and we all work together to make the show a fantastic piece. So I think somewhere along the line, some of that didn't get realized because we forgot what our first priority is, the show. A lot of things went well. And I think the set went well. I think the acting finally came together. I was worried a little bit about line memorization, but eventually when we just laid the hammer down and said, you can't have a book on stage, that's when I think actors actually got their lines together. And I wish we had done that sooner. I wish we had said, that's it, no more books on stage, like 2 weeks before we actually said it. And then forced people to call for line, because that's what eventually gets it in their head, and then they remember it. So, yeah. And then I think ultimately, opening night, Maggie and I were sitting up there and we were terrified, both of us, rightly so. We were like, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is going to go off. And then the lights came up and the two factions came out and they started saying their lines, and I went, this isn't that bad. This is pretty good. So, and the show just got better and better as we went, and it was nice. It was a good feeling that it finally clicked. Yeah, there were a few times when I confided in either Dominique or Maggie or somebody else or my daughter, where I would say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to make this happen. But then, I mean, we all get self-doubts. I think everybody gets that. I think from the top down in this production, everybody has those self-doubts, and you just kind of have to shelve them. Sometimes you let them wash over you. Sometimes I would just sit on the couch and say, I'm done. And I'd sit there for a good 5-10 minutes and let that feeling wash over me. And then it was gone, and then I'd say, I gotta get to work. And I'd get up refreshed, and I'd do the job. So I think you have to be able, as an artist, to say, sometimes, I'm frustrated, and I need to revel in that frustration, and then let it go.
What was the hardest thing you had to deal with?
Wow, that's a hard one. Because I think, in truth, the hardest part that anyone has to deal with, whether you're a director or an actor or a writer or a designer, the hardest thing is self-doubt. And let's sell every single concession. Right. The hardest thing is thinking to yourself, am I really qualified to do what I'm doing, or am I just kidding myself? That's the first obstacle that a professional has to overcome. And so in order to overcome that, I just remember, hey, I've done this before and they were successful, so obviously I can do it again. I just have to trust that my vision is a good one and go with it, right? So that's the biggest obstacle, I think, is your own self-doubt. The second biggest obstacle is helping others overcome their self-doubt, right? Because if my team doesn't feel like they can accomplish something, then they won't. And if they don't accomplish it, then I won't accomplish my dream either.
Do you have any last words?
Rome should have stayed headless.
All right.